Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're talking about something that's probably sitting in your fridge right this second: butter. But what you're spreading on your toast might be hiding a story, one that's a whole lot different from the happy farm life you see on the package.
So let's just dive right in. We're going to peel back the label, look past all those pretty pictures of rolling green hills and happy cows, and really expose the gap between the marketing and what's actually inside the tub. It's a story of industrial processing, a lot of hidden additives, and some pretty clever marketing.
All right, first up, we've got what I'm calling the imposters. These are the products that sit right there next to the real butter in the dairy aisle, but they're not actually butter at all. And their marketing does everything it possibly can to make you think they are. I mean, these spreads are total masters of disguise. They've been basically engineered in a lab to copy butter's texture, its feel, how it spreads. They use all this wholesome country-style imagery on the package to completely hide their true industrial origins.
This right here really shows you what I'm talking about. Take a brand like Country Crock. The front of the tub is selling you a story, right? Country fresh quality. But you flip it over and the ingredient list tells a totally different, much more industrial story. The number one ingredient is soybean oil. There's no actual butter in there.
And this is how these spreads are actually made. It's a full-on factory process, not a farm one. The oils get extracted using industrial chemicals like hexane. Then they go through this chemical process, it's called interesterification, to make them solid and spreadable. And some research even suggests that process could mess with your blood sugar. On top of that, the oils often come from GMO crops, and their production can be linked to some pretty serious environmental damage. Okay, let's move on to our second category. This is where things get a little more complicated, because we're talking about brands that are technically real butter. They're made from cream. But the cream comes from a factory farm system that you might not expect. So the key thing to understand here is this hormone, RBGH. It's a synthetic hormone that's injected into cows to basically force them to produce way more milk than they normally would. And while it's banned in tons of other countries because of health and animal welfare concerns, it's still perfectly legal and used in parts of the U.S. dairy industry. And this shows you the unfortunate chain reaction that happens. Using RBGH puts a lot of stress on the cows, which often leads to these painful infections. Well, those infections then have to be treated with antibiotics. And what happens next? Residues from both the antibiotics and other hormones can actually end up in the milk that gets turned into your butter.
So what does this factory-farmed butter actually look and taste like? Well, for one thing, it's suspiciously consistent. If your butter is the exact same shade of yellow all year round, that's a huge clue that it's from cows stuck inside eating the same processed feed every single day, not outgrazing on seasonal pastures. The taste is often described as just flat. It lacks that complexity of real pasture-raised butter, which is why natural flavorings often get added in. And this brings us to our final category, which, this one might be the most sneaky. This is the premium deception. It targets people who are really trying to buy better products and are even willing to pay more for them.
I think a lot of us do this. We see a higher price tag, we see an imported label, like on a brand like Kerrygold, and we just automatically think, oh, this must be better. We're picturing these perfect, lush green Irish pastures and 100% grass-fed cows. But is that what's really going on? The source material we looked into for this explainer used this really powerful phrase to describe why this category is so deceptive. It's because it's aimed at the exact people who've done their homework, who know about the benefits of grass-fed dairy and are making a very conscious choice to spend more money to get away from that industrial system. And this is where you really see that disconnect between the marketing and the reality. So while the cows do graze on pasture, and that's more than a lot of American factory farm cows get, it's not a 100% grass-fed diet. They still get supplemental grain feed, and that deep golden color we all associate with quality, well, it's often boosted with additives to keep it looking exactly the same year-round, which just isn't how real seasonal pasture-based dairy works.
Okay, so after all of that, you might be thinking, is any butter actually what it says it is? And the good news is, yes. Absolutely. There are brands out there that really do prioritize transparency and genuine quality over just flashy marketing.
So let's look at two brands that are doing it right. You've got Vital Farms, which practices what they call radical transparency. I mean, you can literally see which farm your butter came from right on the box.
Then there's Organic Valley. They're a farmer-owned co-op, which means the farmers themselves are in charge, and they follow strict USDA organic rules. No synthetic hormones, no antibiotics. So the real takeaway here is to look for proof, not just promises. Look for those verifiable third-party certifications like USDA Organic. Find brands that are transparent about where their stuff comes from. And hey, embrace the seasonal changes. If your butter is a slightly different color from one package to the next, that's actually a fantastic sign that you're getting the real deal.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? Really, when you're standing there in the dairy aisle, it all comes down to understanding the very real difference between what the marketing tells you and what the reality is.
This table just lays it all out, plain and simple. The deception relies on artificial, consistent color, hidden sources, weird additives, and vague marketing words. The reality, what you should be looking for, is color that varies with the seasons, transparent sourcing, super simple ingredients, and those legit third-party certifications. Ultimately, every single time you buy butter, you're kind of voting with your wallet for the kind of food system you want to support. So the next time you shop, I really encourage you to read the actual label, not just the marketing on the front. Ask yourself, does this butter tell a story of transparency and real quality, or one of deception? The choice is all yours.